Hi everybody, I'm Lacey Shane, founder of Real Women, Real Success. This week's video is about how to handle disagreement with another woman. And you can certainly utilize the strengths and principles that we're going to talk about with men too. But women have unique challenges in the workplace, not only individually, but with each other. And that's what we're focused on here at Real Women, Real Success. So this video is for you if you're someone that considers yourself conflict avoidant. And this video is for you if you're someone that considers yourself someone who aggressively tackles disagreements. And if my calculations are correct, that covers just about all the women on the planet. So we're good to go on that. I think that none of us, certainly for myself, solidly stands in one place on that. Sometimes it's easier for me to consider letting problems go unaddressed depending on who the person is I'm dealing with, and sometimes it seems like an easier route to be more aggressive and just tackle it head on without really contemplating how I'm working through that resolution process. I think we all have that experience where we're somewhere on the spectrum, sometimes with different people, but my personal goal certainly is to get in a place consistently where I'm productively resolving issues and problems and not taking a back seat with my own beliefs and my own convictions and things that I know to be factual in a professional setting, finding a way to articulate that, finding a way to create a space where other women can articulate that, and coming to solutions where problems and disagreements are resolved. So to talk about this issue, I'm going to share a personal story that actually happened to me in my professional life a few weeks ago. And I'll just run you through what happened, and then I'll talk to you about how I saw it as a really productive interaction of conveying disagreement between two women and getting to a better place on the tail end of it. So 3 weeks ago, we have a service, an information service. You could think of it like a funnel. We funnel information from a bunch of different sources and aggregate it and send it out to our members. We don't say that the information that we're putting out is our opinion. We don't say that it's truthful or not. It's just letting folks know what is out there. And in this particular instance, I got an email from one of my members, a female who is highly engaged in the organization. I have a great relationship with, that had some concerns about that benefit, and specifically felt that it landed negatively on her and her organization. And her email was very directly stated, and that was fine with me, but I did have a busy day when I got the email, and it did look as though she might be upset, and so I just sent her an email that asked if we could talk about it over the phone tomorrow. I needed some time to think about it, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to react emotionally either. What was nice about that is I finished my day, I came home, I started to have dinner, and I got, on my way home, a text from her and an email from her that was so nice, just saying, hey, I don't know if my email came across aggressively at all or too direct, but I just wanted you to know that if it did, I apologize. I didn't mean for it to come across that way. And right there, that showed some amazing leadership I felt on her part. She obviously cares about the relationship, and I really appreciated that. So overnight, I was able to think through, let my emotions subside. We've talked about how important it is when you're having a productive interaction to resolve a problem or an issue or something that has gone wrong, that you have time to let your emotions subside if in fact you need that. And I was able to do that, and we talked for a long time on the phone the next morning. And it was a productive conversation, and here's why. We both spent a lot of time listening to the other person, but not just listening, but empathizing and having compassion for the other person's situation. Because let's face it, every organization has a different goal and mission. They have different goals they're trying to achieve. And certainly that was the case for our two organizations. While this organization is a member of mine, we don't have the same mission, you know? And so it's not a surprise when someone has, either from a different department or a different organization, a different perspective on something. So my goal was to jump into her emotional trenches with her and try to see things from her perspective, from where she sits within her organization. And she did the same thing with me. And that was really the gist of the entire conversation. At the end of that conversation, I was really able to conclude that perhaps there's some things we could do better in delivering our service. Perhaps there were some things that weren't really clear as we were funneling out these resources to our members. So I put some fixes in place, and I think that we still ended the conversation not in complete agreement about the value of this benefit, but what was clear is that a broad range of my members really appreciate this, so that we were going to try to continue to do it, but make it better. So we put our bettering practices into place. We put some mechanisms for double checks. We clarified some things in our communications, and we felt really good. Problem solved, all good, done. A week and a half after that, that plan failed, and I had a call from one of my staff members that said, please look at your email, and I had another email from this wonderful woman that said, I think we just need to go to the ultimate action we talked about before and do this. And what was so interesting to me about that email is that it was so kind and it was very direct, but there was no real emotion in it. It was very much just a personal resolve of, hey, I think this is what we needed to do. And I responded to her because, of course, I was mortified. I don't like failing myself. I don't like having something land negatively on one of my constituents. And I felt terrible about it. And so I looked through what had happened. She was absolutely right. In fact, the concern that she had initially probably was even a lot more warranted on this second occurrence. So I wrote her an email back and I said, I'm so sorry. I really am mortified by this. We're going to take this ultimate step that you suggest. Absolutely effective immediately. And lastly, I want to thank you for the kindness in your email and the way that you approached me with this, because if I were you, I'd be really angry. The email that came back to me said, well, isn't that what real women do with each other? Don't we owe it to each other to deal with each other this way? And the answer is yes, yes, we do. We owe it to each other to deal with each other this way and to understand that we have imperfections and things don't always go right. And if we have personal accountability and responsibility for the things that go wrong and try to fix them and do our best, then we should cut each other that slack. And she was doing that for me, while at the same time letting me know this is really not good, this must change. So I appreciated that. And there were several reasons why this interaction where two women disagreed, we came together once with something that wasn't 100% of what either one of us wanted. That's one of the hallmarks of a really great problem resolution or disagreement resolution, is that nobody gets 100% of what they want, most oftentimes. That's how you create a win-win. To get some of what you want, you have to give up some of what you want. And that's so, so important to building relationships and to having good, productive partnerships and interactions with other women and other people. So that was definitely a hallmark of this particular interaction between me and this woman. The other thing is that we both got in each other's emotional trenches. We both used our innate abilities of empathy and compassion and compromise to come to that place where we could agree to move forward. I think both of us did not need to win the battle. So many times you see people, and there's some women out there, I'm sure you've seen it, maybe been the victim of it, where there's a turf battle going on and nothing but 100% is acceptable. But I think for both of us, we're in it to win the war, not the battle. And what I mean by that is winning the war is winning the relationship, winning what's best for all concerned, winning what's good for my organization and what's good for her organization, even if that involves some compromising. And when you look at some of the biggest problems in our corporations and in our governments, isn't it all about the lack of compromise? We as women have that innate skill within us. So I do believe that both of us utilize that skill really, really well. I also think that both of us were humble enough to apologize. If you remember going back to her initial email, she felt really, really compelled to apologize if she didn't come across as productively as she wanted to. And I certainly had to apologize when that mistake happened yet a second time. And, you know, I think sometimes people feel like saying, I'm sorry, giving an apology is a sign of maybe weakness or the sign that you don't know what you're doing. I actually really differ with that. When I have people that I come into contact with who make a mistake or don't really understand how something they did landed on other people and they don't apologize for it, it doesn't make them look like the smartest person. It doesn't make them look empathetic. It makes them look like they don't care. So I think apologies and apologizing is a top leadership skill that all of us must employ, and err on the side of too much rather than not enough. And having said that, there are some times where I understand, and I've come from a place like this early in my career where you just apologize too much and for everything. I'm not saying that at all. I want to give great credit to women who are really trying to make it in a professional setting and sometimes aren't sure really where those boundaries are, because that's part of growth, is figuring that out, right? So I understand that sometimes there's women out there, and I've been one of them, that apologize too much. What you want to do is make sure there's legitimately something to apologize for. And we can talk about more about that in a later video of really going through that thought process. Nevertheless, apologies, good thing. Okay, the other thing, I think we both felt we owed it to each other to bring our highest selves to resolving this issue. We both value the relationship enough, value our partnership and our organization's partnership enough, that we wanted to figure out how to do this productively. And that's a commitment where you sort of rise up to a higher level of thinking in how you want to approach something. You actually deliberate about how you want to approach something, and that's a good place to be. We both gave each other the benefit of the doubt, and that is so important to do as a matter of practice. When you notice patterns in someone's behavior that are unproductive, sure, you can start to draw some conclusions from that. Another innate skill we have is intuition, and sometimes you pick on someone's behavior patterns and you just know maybe they're going in a certain direction. But most oftentimes, it's important to start with giving the benefit of the doubt, and then if there aren't those patterns, always give the benefit of the doubt. I think both of us were able to do that, and therefore we ended up seeing each other as not trying to hurt each other's area of responsibility, not trying to gore each other's ox, but really trying to work through a problem together. Another thing that we both did in our action to resolve this problem is when we had our long conversation, we both spoke in I statements. And a good rule of thumb to remember is just if you're delivering negative or challenging information, use I statements. And if you're delivering happy and positive information, use you statements. That will always land you in a good place with the other person. And it really sets you up as taking responsibility for how you see the information without coming across as maybe though you're attacking or insulting the other person. It really works well. Use I statements. The other thing is that I think the end of this was the end of this. The first time we resolved the issue, the end of it was the end of it, and now I know for sure it's the end. But what I mean by that is I don't fear that months from now this is going to come up in a conversation with this person as something that went wrong. We resolved it, we're okay with where we landed, and we're moving on. And so much in relationships that don't work well, you see things resurrecting themselves over and over and over again. It's because they haven't truly been resolved. And the two parties, or however many parties, haven't come to peace with where things have rested on the resolution of that. Again, the best way to get to a restful position on resolution is if you're working with someone that is also a win-win type person like you, and you've compromised and come to a middle ground where there's benefits on both sides, then you can feel pretty confident it's okay to just let it go and move on and get on down the road. So I think the last thing is that we both were direct with each other without being attacking or insulting. And it's so important for your authenticity, for my authenticity, for people to know where I stand and what I think, so they're not guessing, so that they understand where I'm coming from. It builds bridges and it helps people understand the world that you're in versus the context of the world they are in. And in this interaction, we both were direct, not in an aggressive way, but just direct about where we stood and what our responsibilities were and what we could and couldn't do. And that's so, so important to a successful interaction. So I hope this was helpful to you. How to disagree with another woman is an important thing to know how to do and to practice over and over. Anybody that says they're perfect, perfecting is our goal. Perfect is not attainable. But as long as we're perfecting our skills, we're on the path to growing and ascending to higher levels of success. And that's what we want for women. We want to see women in higher levels of success, as higher levels of leaders in our governments and in our corporations. And that's what I hope for you and all women. So thanks for watching. I hope you go out there and have a great week. Always remember that I'm your biggest fan, and I'll see you next time.